Hi, it's Nancy, welcoming you to Gardens Grow.
Look at this little bumblebee. He's really getting in earnest. Getting that flower pollen. And I am digging this out. This is something I found when I was cleaning up, that I need some of this in a certain area. I know I at least need one of these. I think I need more, but I know that I have one that both of the little stake part is off. And I've been meaning to fix that for quite some time now. But last night, while we were sleeping, this happened. Another ½ inch of rain, and we needed it so badly. Before this, we had only gotten two and an eighth inches of rain all season long, other than we got some little bitty sprinkles which didn't lift the float up at all. So this was so welcome, and not only was it welcome because of the rain, and oh, it was so welcome. Thank you, Lord, for this rain. But it also gave us some cooler weather, and we were suffering with that heat. You can tell the plants were also suffering from that heat. But this is what I plan on doing today, and this is so much easier done when the ground is soft enough. You can actually push these little stakes in the ground, and hopefully it'll hold up at least for a while. And this temperature sounds so much better, feels so much better. Even I can do something out in the garden in this kind of temperatures. And even with just that little bit of work, I can tell the humidity is kicking in. So, I don't know, summer's just hard in the garden, especially for me these days. But hopefully we'll make it through it, and hopefully we'll have some wonderful fall before winter sets in. This little lily was giving up in that heat. You can even tell there's one right there. I don't know if you can see it, but it just turned brown, didn't even begin to open or get big enough to open. But after that rain, look, it's just got some more life in it. It loves it too, just like I do. It gives me hope again. But I know that old heat will be back, so we've just got to enjoy our little reprieve. Another thing I did last night, because I knew we had a slight chance for rain, I did go ahead and clip back some of my little coleus and put them in other spots that were bare to give them a chance to fill up and give these a chance to grow wider and stronger. Look, can you see those hornworms on there? I thought, well, I had a bunch of blooms on this and they're mostly gone. Well, right there is the little culprit that took care of that for me. And you know, my little double impatient, that beautiful pink impatiens, looked like a rose without thorns. Well, it looked terrible, and I was sure it was just the heat getting to it. So I moved it over into more shaded area, and the next day it looked worse. So I thought, oh no, something else is going on, but I don't know what. So I felt of the soil, which was wet. So I thought, well, that's not it. So I brought it inside and took a deeper look into it, and I realized that it was not draining well. I don't know, some of these pots that are set up to hold the water for you are not always good for outside plants. They might be great for inside plants. I don't know, because I'm just not good with inside plants anyway. But like, okay, here's one right here, how it's set up where it holds the water. Sometimes that's a good thing, I guess, and sometimes it's just not. This has the little reservoir inside it, but I did leave the reservoir there. I may have to deal with it again, but I did put a bigger hole, drain hole in the bottom of it, and I'm hoping that that will make a difference and that this will come out of it. I did go ahead and divide it and put some in this pot and a couple or maybe 3 other little pieces of it in other pots, and I took some of the little scraggly ones that were dying that I cut off, just the ones that have a really good healthy stem, and I put those in a glass of water to see if they will root. And I just cleaned this little, this is a double petunia, and so pretty when it blooms, but it got overheated one time and it's just struggling to come out of it and not really quite able to. But I trimmed it back again and see if I can hold on to it as long as I can. That's kind of like me working in the garden. Once I got overheated, it's just, I just can't handle that heat hardly at all anymore. And this little green unladybug, whatever they're actually called, is another reason that I need to put some insecticide down. And this is some of the damage it does. You can see it's just been eaten away. I would have thought this was probably grasshoppers if I hadn't have seen that one on here. It's probably the same one, or it and all of its family and cousins have been over here. I was so proud of my little oak leaf hydrangea, but you can see it just crisped up in that heat, so I guess it needs some shade. I'm hoping that well, actually this little crepe myrtle shaded it some, and I thought it was doing okay, but in that heat it just didn't make it. But I'm hoping that my little blue spruce will grow up and cast a shade on all of this area, because I used to have a maple tree here and it was helping out all of these plants. You can see my little lace cap hydrangea did the same thing. As pretty as it was, it's just all crispy burnt in places now, most places. So, but as long as it lives, and hopefully my little tree will grow up and cast it a shade, and things will be better. Oh, and these, of course, these are not real, they're just silk, but they also have a solar little connector there, and they do light up at night and look pretty. I'm glad I redid this little pot, and I'm glad I was able to find the star impatiens, red star impatiens, because it just is looking great this morning after the rain. I don't know what to tell you about these things, because they're kind of scary. They leave me alone, or have been doing so far, but I don't know what they are. They may be hornets. They are in ground borers. It has a home down under there somewhere, just right in that area. I've seen it fly into it, but they're humongous and a little scary when I see them in the garden. Do you remember when I told you that this little dew plant would do well and fill up this whole side of the pot? Well, it's well on its way to do that. I think it will get even bigger, and it loves our Oklahoma heat, so I like it when I find a plant that can stand it to get through that heat. which is usually not. These beautiful little calibrachoas, or calibrachoa I call them, but I think they're called calibrachoas. And this one is still alive though, so I'm happy about that. But these dew plants definitely do well for us. They're not hardy, however, so I have to bring them inside, and that's a whole nother story with me bringing anything inside and expecting to bring it back out. But I have done, so I keep trying. But I love it when I find a plant that works for us, and Coleus does. It does not mind that heat as long as it gets a little bit of shade. Some of it can take the full sun, but most of it does need a little shade. I think it does better with a little shade, but they just keep going. They look beautiful. They just keep going, and you can clip the tops of them off if they start to get tall and spindly, and they will spread out and get thicker and fuller, and I think look even better. And this is that ursine, this pretty multicolored flower right here, and this gets quite a bit of sun, so it is turning the lighter color. The ones that are more in the shade are a much brighter, deeper color. So I should get a day off from watering, which sounds heavenly to me. And not necessarily because I don't like to water, because I do. I really don't mind watering because you get up close and personal. You can see what's really going on with your plants. You can see that they're in trouble, or you can see that they're flourishing, and you need to go get the camera and take a picture of them. They look so good. But anything you do over and over and over, and in the heat, when it's just the surroundings or the elements you're facing, it's not good. It's just not, it's no longer fun, even if it wouldn't naturally be fun. Of course, I guess that is nature, for it to be so tremendously hot in the summertime. But most of my tree lilies, are lily trees, have given up their bloom for this season. But like that yellow one I showed you earlier, this one is still blooming and looking good. It won't last much longer though. And of course, I've told you this one died in the heat. Before it even opened all the way up, it just turned brown, but it got a slight bit cooler, and this one is looking good. And again, it'll be going out soon also. And the sun has came out, but I am going to, later on today in the evening, I'm going to cut off these ones that are just shooting up straight, and I'm going to clip those off and put them in other areas in the garden where they need a little something else, or just where they need something to trail. So hopefully it'll make this one prettier and give another pot a chance to look prettier too. This little tiny strawberry pot, you can see how small it is, but it did fill back up, although I noticed yesterday that there is one that's not. So I'll also try to clip one of these off and put it in that spot back there, so this one will be full. But I do think I'll perhaps wait until this evening to do it, so they'll have a good chance, because when you break those off, of course, they have no root. And then I put them in rooting powder and stick them in. And they say you don't even really have to put them in rooting powder. They'll just go ahead and transplant, which they probably will, but I always like to give them that little extra chance. I just always feel like my little plants need all the help they can get. I might even put some of that Swedish ivy in this little pot that I was showing you earlier into this little pot right here with my other ivy, because it's got some bare spot on this side, and I just think it could look prettier all full. Although I wouldn't like it to grow up so much that it would hide this little bird. It would have to trail down for me. I'm so anxious for these to bloom, these begonias, or not begonias, but bougainvilleas. I hope they will bloom and I get to show them to you in all their glory. Look at this. This is amazing to me. A calibrachoa that's actually blooming and growing and looking pretty good. A little leggy, okay, but it's still very pretty. Keep it up, little one, because I've shown you that they died out here in this little spot, but I refilled it with some of the Purple Heart Wandering Jew, and I like it in this little pot too, although it sure was pretty growing in with this Silver Falls dichondra. And I wanted the coleus in this little pot to grow up so it would have a tall thing in here for like a thriller, but this one is beginning to grow tall. The ones in the back still haven't that much. This one's beginning to also though, so I think they will still make it, and it does make the whole pot look better. And I was so proud of this spring when it already had something in it, this pretty sedum that just grew tall and spindly. But now it's drooping down and it's getting too much water, so when I give this one enough water, it's getting too much. I knew that could happen, but somehow I thought, well, it probably won't happen in this pot because, you know, the pots definitely don't stay moist as long. Although look, this is another one of those pots with that bottom that's supposed to, I don't know, it's supposed to keep it longer, but out in the heat it just doesn't work well. You can see I poked a hole in it right there to try to get it to drain at some point, and then forgot all about that it holds water, so I may need to move that out or change this. And I like having color in this little pot, so I'm not sure what I'll do with it yet. And of course this is another little pot with calibrachoa that's doing great, and I may need to trim it back so it can flourish again. I don't know. I'm so hesitant to cut anything back when it already has some pretty blooms, even if they are more sparse than they used to be. But I don't know if this is definitely a proven winners, and I don't know if that makes that much difference for a plant. But I might just have to try getting all proven winners when I get my calibrachoas to see if that's going to make a difference for me. We are supposed to have cooler weather for a few days, several days, so I'm hoping we do. I've actually loved being out in the garden when it's not so hot, when it's not miserable. It's just kind of wonderful. And I know that all the little coleuses that I clipped off, if the weather had not gotten cooler, they would just be totally wilted down and they would not come out of it. Too much heat for them to be able to. So, but hopefully if I go ahead and do some more tonight, I'll have enough for things to get going again. And if they get their little root made before the heat comes on, they'll keep going. Oh, and guess what? Yesterday when I was out here, I was getting those little clippings and watering. Because you know in Oklahoma, if it starts misting, don't assume you're going to get rain, because you cannot assume you're going to get rain until you got rain, and then you cannot water. But if you don't water that day thinking it's going to, you and the plants are going to suffer for it. So because you will hate yourself for letting them die, and them because they will not be able to make it without water. But while I was out here, I was in the front, and I had just cleaned out the bird bath a day before, and I saw that painted bunting again. It was so wonderful to see it, because I really assumed I probably would not see it again. And there it was. He flew toward the bird bath, the one in the front, not this one, which actually I did clean this one out too, though. I wish he would come back. I hope he just keeps coming back. But he saw me when he went toward the bird bath, and he flew away from it to another little area just 3 foot away from it, and he stopped and he turned around and looked. We made eye contact, and then he did go ahead and fly away. I'm not sure he would have, except for the fact that, of course, it was the 4th of July and firecrackers were going off all around him. I had to show you this little hummingbird just taking a little break and resting a bit. And I think of all the many seeds I planted in this little strawberry pyramid planter, the marigolds are the ones that came up. And I finally just now took the time to take the old dead stuff off of this little wandering Jew plant. See, I missed some right here. But this has been needing to have been done since I brought it out. It turns like this in my house. As I told you that I don't do well with houseplants whatsoever. I think this one has fallen off. But I will clip this one off and put it back in. There, I can tell that she feels so much prettier now. I would hardly be surprised if she would do a little twirl. And I'm happy that my little fan flower is still alive. It may not be thriving, but it's little bits of that purple, I guess you would call it. Sometimes I call things blue that others call purple. It seems kind of blue to me. But anyway, the blue violet, it's just adding, even though it's small, adding to this color of this little pot. I still need to get something tall right for the center though. And I can tell those old green bugs I was showing you earlier have been over here destroying these little blooms. And even my little blue grass colored licorice plant has suffered in the heat, and I took those off of there so it won't be trying to heal what it can't heal, and so it can just concentrate on looking beautiful. In this little pot, I've been watering it every day, and every day it looked pitiful, and I really thought, well, it's never going to come out of it. It's just going to look pitiful. And I thought maybe I can put some little clippings of some coleus in here if I have enough to go around. But look at it, after that rain, it just perked up. And I think these are the large marigolds, maybe even the mission giants. But even just the regular ones I really like. So either way, I'll be proud if they make pretty big blooms and show off a little bit for me. And my little large scabiosa, I think it's called Fama. But you can tell they just crisped up. The buds crisped up. They most likely will not open. And you can tell these did also. But look. I had to get a battery changed, but I was saying that I found one that opened up. It liked that little rain and the cooler weather, and it still had enough energy to open and bloom. And this is a scraggly looking little one compared to how they normally look. And I don't know what has happened to my dragon wing begonias this year. They usually look so great in this little pot, but this one I'm pretty sure is dead or right next to it. I was kind of thinking about clipping this off and putting it there in the center, but if you look closely, there is some little plant trying to come up from seed there, and what I had here was that lovely yellow hummingbird mint. So I'm hoping that's what it is, and that before the end of the season I can show it to you in bloom. And this little dragonwing begonia has fared better, but it's still not as pretty as they normally are. It keeps doing this thing, and maybe that's just from the heat, I don't know, but it's crunching up and just not looking good. I'm going to keep fiddling with them and see what will happen. Well, with this one, now the other one, I may take a little piece of this and try to start in the other one, because I loved having my dragonwing begonias there when they just flourished and did good, or did well. But I'm just thinking it may just need a coleus or something else put in it. But there, now I've got a bunch of the old bad spots off of it, and again, taking off the things that it cannot heal may give it the energies to go ahead and take off and go again. And I think it would have gone anyway if it had not have been for that hot weather that it had to suffer through. And this is where my little variegated creeping Jenny was and is. It does still have some of it left, but that heat has done a number on it too. And I do think this might be a good spot to put another little coleus for color in here. I also had to clip off a bunch of brown leaves off of my spearmint hosta, and I hope I get to keep this one. Oh, of course, I hope I get to keep everything, but you know, this is a especially pretty little hosta, and I want it to do well and live. And my little coleus are not doing so great, but they are. They usually have to wilt down a little bit, and if they don't wilt down more than this before they begin to build that root, they'll be able to pick that up. And the ones that they can't pick up, we'll just clip those off too, and then they'll start fresh and be beautiful from that new root they've built. Unless, of course, that heat comes back and destroys all that hope. Look at this beautiful Sunday morning. We're getting rain. I don't know if we'll get a lot, but I hope we get a nice soaking rain. I know the garden would love it, and I know I would love it, just simply not having to water, cooler weather. We can enjoy all of that as just all wrapped up in that beautiful rain. Okay, these are now ready to go back into the garden. And this one is already back in the garden. I went ahead and hung it up so it could dry. And when the others are dry and with that final coat of a sealant, then they will go back into their respective places in the garden. And look, we got another 1/8 of an inch of rain, bringing this up to a full inch of rain. What a wonderful reprieve. Thank you, Lord, so much for the rain and the cooler weather. And help us all, because I think the forecast is for by the weekend for it to go back where we're going to be like in the ovens again. And that was probably the perfect time for the summer to put in them little coleus clippings. That first day they crisped up when the sun came out, but they didn't have too much sun that it burned them so completely they couldn't build a root. You can tell this little one has built it a little root, and it has perked up, and it will go on from there. Of course, I do need to get out here and clip away all the old dead stuff so it can put all of its energies into all the new foliage and build even more. And I will try to get that done today. I have them in various places throughout the garden. Even my little aloe vera is starting to look alive again. It was just dying off. As a matter of fact, I clipped off a bunch of it where it was all brown, and I think that helped it too. And then that rain, and it's acting like it's ready to go again. The bees are working the bee balm this morning. Oh, they're flying, and I can't get them, but oh, look, and there's a honeybee over there too, if I'm getting it for you. So she may not be perfect, but then who is? And she does look pretty good right there in her little spot. This is what happens to some of my lilies, and most of my little double lilies I didn't get to even open up, but they come on a little later than the regular Asiatic lilies, and they just seem to get that horrible heat that we have, and they just don't always open up and bloom. And then of course the rain on top of they were already scorched, so now they'll probably go ahead and do like some of my peonies did and just rot out. I hate that, but you know, that's gardening too. Don't always work out for us, but usually there's enough stuff that does work out that we can remain happy. And this one's back in her spot too. And I do have the little stand anchored in better, and hopefully that won't happen to her again. Or him, I'm not quite sure. This may be a guy cherub, but it could be a girl. Whichever. It looks lovely back in its spot.
Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.